Let's start.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, all the participants of our event, HELiX ASEAN Forum. I hope you are all well and healthy. I'm Rino from AHA Center. I'm currently joining live from Jakarta, and thank you for attending today's session on logistics solutions and supply chain management in Asia Pacific. This is quite a long title, Perspective of the Humanitarian Organizations and Collaborations with the Private Sector. This event today will be hosted and facilitated by our partners. So we have Mr. Rino Sudibyo from Save the Children International. And we also have Ms. Martina Aureli from NRS Relief, who are joining us virtually from Singapore and Dubai, respectively. As a brief information, this event is a series of 2 days focus sessions of Humanitarian and Emergency Logistics Innovation Expo, or HELiX. And just a heads up, please acknowledge that due to the setting of this event, we may experience some issue with the internet connection or any other glitches on the web. So before I give the microphone to the speakers, allow me to quickly share my screen on the house rule for a bit. Let me know if the screen is already sure.
If you can use your microphone, you have you can also use the chat.
Mbak Rina?
Yeah, a second. Okay, so very simple. It's we encourage everyone to rename and use the format of their name and organization following the chat. Sorry, the participant name for the Zoom setting, and then one quick rule is that to be mindful to turn off the microphone and the video unless you are called or you have the space to speak. And we want to hear any comments, questions from you. So feel free to just drop your comments and questions to the chat box, and be concise in giving your and expressing your ideas. So that's just quickly share. And a second.
We also have specifically the emergency
I am hearing that there's disturbing noise in the background.
It's a noise, but I don't think it's disturbing.
Okay, all right. Let me know if it gets.
It's fine.
Okay. All right, let me proceed. All right. Without further ado, I think I'm gonna give the microphone to Mr. Rino Sudibyo and Ms. Martina Aureli. The floor is yours, and for all the participants, do enjoy the session and the discussion. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Rino.
Thank you, Mbak Desrina. Good afternoon, selamat sore untuk yang di Indonesia. My name is Rino Sudibyo. I'm with Save the Children in the Asia region as the head of supply chain. My involvement with supply chain and logistics in the humanitarian context have started since I think 2003, 2004, with different organizations, but mostly in the field, but in the recent years doing a lot of change management in the executive side. However, for our session today, my spoiler alert to you is that I'm not an expert, I'm a practitioner. And so today will be more of extracting some of my experience and the practices that I've done, and hopefully it's useful for everyone. And we do also want to invite you to share your perspective in this session. And today I'm joined by Ms. Martina Aureli, and she will introduce to you what she does and where she's from. And I'm very happy to be here, and I want to thank Hassan sir for the opportunity also to be paired with Martina and NRS Relief. Martina, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Rino. Thank you, Desprina, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm also very pleased to be here attending HELiX 2021. And today I'm here representing the private sector, as I work for a company called NRS Relief that is very passionate about designing and supplying relief items and multipurpose shelters for the humanitarian sector. And at NRS Relief, my responsibilities include taking care of projects for humanitarian organizations based in Asia Pacific, and I also take care of procurement requests of organizations based in the USA and in Latin America. Professionally, but also personally, I am very interested about private-public partnerships and sustainable development and gender equality, with a focus on the role of women in peace and security. I'm also very glad to present this session together with Rino from Save the Children. And I would like to give you an overview of the structure of the session today. So we will start with the presentation given by Rino from Save the Children. So Rino will start the journey of Save the Children in improving their supply chain preparedness and the readiness in operating in a humanitarian operation. He will focus on aspects of technical supply chain and business partnerships internally and externally. And the main objective of Save the Children presentation will be to celebrate success and also celebrate failures while inspire positively other practitioners of the humanitarian supply chain. So we will also invite all of you to share your ideas, best practices, and also to challenge perspectives. After Rino presentation, I will start with my brief overview. So my presentation will be divided into three main parts. I will start with an introduction on how NRS Relief, a manufacturing company of relief items and shelters, works in collaboration with humanitarian organizations. And I will also explain a bit more about our experience in emergency response. The second part will be focused on logistics solutions and supply chain management in Asia Pacific. And I will discuss a bit about our strategic partnership with local distributors as part of our business strategy. And the final part will be on innovation as a result of public-private partnership. So after our two presentations, we will open the floor to questions. So I would like to ask the participants to raise their hands so we can allow you to have access to the microphone. Or in alternative, you can also type your questions in the chat box, and we will make sure to give you an answer during the question and answer sessions. I would also like to ask you to fill out the form for the feedback questionnaire. So 10 minutes before closing the session, in the chat box, you will find a quick link where you can express your opinions, give your feedback, and share your comments and recommendations for the sessions, if any. So Rino, the floor is yours, and we are all very curious to know more about logistics solution and supply chain management from the perspective of Save the Children.
Thanks, Martina. And again, welcome everyone. Let me know if you can see the screen I'm sharing. Is that yeah, Martina?
We can,
okay.
yes.
Can. All right. So I think this is a bit of a personal reflection. When I started working in this sector, being in the field or in the office, I find that when it comes to sort of like management meetings or, meetings of decision makers, supply chain or logistics has always been the second elephant in the room. You can type LOL or ha 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 if you've come across this situation. And I mean, we're always the second elephant in the room. I don't know who's the first elephant in the room, but there's always supply chain or logistics as the second elephant in the room. And it's because we rarely get involved in the right coordination, in the right perspective gathering. And so it's difficult to operate when you have very little opportunities to provide technical perspective, provide strategic views. And so I think this has progressed in so many great ways, and also has benefited a lot of us in this sector, especially when we talk about how we continue to respond to more and more humanitarian situation in this region, whether it's natural or man-made. So let's start with the easy question, and I really want you to just type a few things in the chat box, and it's about getting the basics right. What do we mean by getting the basics right? Okay. Whether you're coming from the private government or even commercial sector, or even in the nonprofits or humanitarian organizations, we all start with the same questions, getting the basics right. What is it about basics that you think needs to be right? In my professional perspective, getting the basics right, meaning that you have the right people, the right talent, and then you have the right scope of ambition. And as with everything else, you have to have the right funding or resources in general. But also, one of the things that continues to be a basic, and a great deal of needs to be as a basic, is for me business partnering or partnership with the different actors or the different organizations or teams within your organization, so that basics become more of a concrete platform of engaging, whether it's preparedness during response as well. So, but it's really, if you pick up some comments about getting the basics right, please let us know in the chat. So getting the basics right? So it's important why we need to get the basics right, because without the basics, you're more or less going to be doing a lot of improv, and that may not work in a productive way. So I've learned and I've realized that if you want to be doing well in a humanitarian response, you first need to get the basics right? So if you have a very simple way of looking at it, if you have a procurement system that does not support, that is still very cumbersome, that is very still long process, and you're putting in layers of accountability or governance or risk management that is overly exhausting, that's something to be looking at. And whether that is a basic, some things are nice to have, some things are must have. So that's what basics is all about. And during preparedness phase is when we really need to make sure that our basics are improving. What we say are our basics needs to be in place and really working for us. Now, some people call preparedness phase as the business as usual, the peace time, the non-response time. But in other terms, while you're responding to a situation or a humanitarian response, you may also be doing preparedness. And not to mention, these days, you're likely to see parallel response or simultaneous response in a country or in a region. And that will mean that your ability to deliver the response really relies on how strong your basics are. So we talk about people, strategy, planning, warehousing, fleet. And that last icon on the right is business partnering. So if it were about whether you're not ready to look to go to support a humanitarian response, is how you do your preparedness. So getting preparedness right is also another thing. So while you do your basics to be right, you ultimately have to document your preparedness so that other components of the organization or external understands what you're going to do, how you will do it, who will do it, at least the minimum 3W. So you document it, you publish it, and then you need to update it, because there's one thing about being prepared at this time, but then when a situation changes, you need to adjust that. Look at where we are in terms of addressing COVID-19 situation. A year ago, we were in a different kind of situation. And today, we have the different kind of strands of the virus that are affecting different countries. And so the need to update your preparedness level and the way you do your preparedness also needs to be updated. And last but not least, and I find this as a personal lessons learned, is outward looking. The world is not just about you and your organization. The world is also about your government partners, your local and district, sub-district partners, your commercial sector. And this is the part where later Martina will, will expose to us how can the commercial sector be that business partner other than just being transactional. I hope I was right, Martina. So getting the business partnership right is important, because when you can establish some sort of a business partnering relationship, it shows that as a team, as an organization, it indicates your maturity. The fact that you're able to look inward and upward outside of just your team or your function really gives that sense of how you and your team is matured and is willing to accept criticism, willing to collaborate, willing to, listen and team up and share resources. And in no particular order, when you business partner and you get it right, it gives you the opportunity to also strengthen your value proposition. What is it that you are offering to your other, business partners, whether it's internally with, let's say, departments such as HR, the grants team, for example. What is your value proposition? And that partnership, business partnering, can give that opportunity for you to not only establish, but also to strengthen your value proposition. And obviously, because you are business partnering the right way, it will help you improve your performance. And we've seen very simple and very evidence-based examples, such as when we partner with, let's say, UNHRD, with the Global Logistics Cluster, with AHA Center. These are just a few simple examples that when you engage in an effective business partnering, you benefit and it improves your performance. And last but not least, it's relationship, right? So I've been in many different situations where we in the field are not at the luxury of resources, right? And I will just give one simple example. Mbak Rina from AHA Center, I was working with her in Padang, I think it was 2011, 2012. Mbak Rina, with the organization that she was working with, have access to, boats to transit and to shuttle goods from one island to another. And so we were, the organization that was working with at that time really benefited. And that's one of the very simple example of business partnership and how that improved the relations. Okay. So what's the big deal about business partnership? Is it? I don't believe it's just a jargon. I think in the past, some have used the terms stakeholders. I think in the way that the commercial sector now even works closer with the humanitarian or nonprofit sector and vice versa. Business partnering is more of getting into the results rather than, for me, if it was a stakeholder, it's really compartmentalizing roles and responsibility, which is still important, by the way. So why is it a big deal? Well, business partnering is a big deal because if you look at the trend here, and this is the data from Save the Children, if we look at the trend here and you look at what's happening in this region in Asia in terms of what most of us are doing in this region for humanitarian response, you look at how, almost every year, starting from 2015 and onwards until today, there's always some kind of a crisis. And you look at the 2 years of 2017, 2019, and 2021, these are not natural cause, right? It's all man-made, it's conflict. And so this region is seeing more and more of this conflict. It's not just about a Middle East situation or an Africa situation. It will soon be more of a fixture to the Asia context of humanitarian crisis. And if you look at the below box, you see a category 4. So in Save the Children, we have four categorization. Cat 1 is extraordinary, the big impact and affected populations are at a very high level, national or even multi-country. And 4 being the small scale, or something that would be like, let's say, a flash flood that involves a province or a district, something within part of a country. But if you look at the trend of incidences where we respond, at least from a Save the Children perspective, you look at how from year to year, it continues to be increasing, if not continues to be at a high number. And Cat 4 in 2021 for Save the Children, this data is as of April. So already we're responding to category 4 responses. And I think soon enough with the Myanmar situation, we will not just be seeing a response in Myanmar, but also already some organizations, including Save the Children, are already starting to address the influx or the cross-border of displacements over to the Thailand side, to the northern of Thailand. And so we're looking at, we're looking at this and why, this is a very strong reason of why business partnering is a big deal. In Save the Children, COVID-19 is not officially categorized as a Cat 1 or Cat 2. Because of the nature that it is, it's become part of a preparedness coverage, but in the way we operate program implementations, it's throughout the different sectors and levels of operating levels is to be high level consideration. So it's not necessarily a Cat 1, 2, 3, or 4, but it's part of a basic consideration of context. And the other thing with business partnering is that, this sector, we are more and more demanded to be looking inward into how, localization and sustainability is, right? So when we look at sustainability side of things or localization, at least we can easily see there are 3 things here that we can contribute from the angle of business partnership towards improving social, economic, or environmental with regards to considerations of localization and sustainability. And also digitalization. There is a very strong need for us to be more data-driven, for us to be more on the Internet of Things. And also the capability to analyze, I think it's easy for us to say, okay, we're going to capture data, we're going to capture this data, that data, but it's actually, the ability to process and analyze those data and actually make sense of what it tells us in terms of analysis. And digitizing business processes, in our experience, have enabled a much clearer segregation of duties, while at the same time we lower risk, such as fraud and poor performance. And so some of those very simple initiatives early on, this is something from the last 3 or 4 years in Save the Children, is that for preparedness, we've created an in-house dashboard where we capture the different the different stock levels of of pre-positioned stock in different countries. And so that's enable us to see what is where and how much and how many. This is using a Power BI application within SharePoint. So this is something that's available available easily and updated regularly. And I think my last point on this is that when we talk about business partnering, each organization has what is called the internal organizational demand, right? So, you know, much the same with a lot of many similar organizations in the sector, we look at how there is a stronger demand for us as an organization to be more applying the thinking around diversity, equality, and inclusion, compliance, risk management, and transformation. And transformation, by transformation, I mean is that, you know, more and more organizations continue to evolve quickly and to adjust to the situations and the needs of how we respond to the crisis of humanitarian crisis or even funding situations. And at the same time, deliver more value for money, whether it's normal programming or in humanitarian context. And so, you know, every organization will come with their own demand, which will, for different departments, have to carry on. And specifically with Save the Children, even more in supply chain, is that we need to make Save the Children safe for children. And that's why a big agenda for us is implementing the aspects of safeguarding children in supply chain. So, you know, I think these are very, very simplistic way of looking at why, you know, business partnering is a big deal, and why, you know, we need to really be more deliberate and really strong in identifying who our partners are, how we want to work together, and etc. And, you know, whether it's local, national level, and partnership is not just about, I think when Martina will come, it's not just with the private sector or the commercial sector. It's not only when we have to transact, you know, but I think we can be more deliberate during, you know, preparedness, and we'll hear with Martina what her perspective is and how our sector can be benefiting in business partnering context with the commercial sector. So that's a bit of the content from my side in terms of getting the thinking started. And so, Martina, over to you.
Thank you, Rino. Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. I already have a few questions for you that I'm going to share later. Allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, so everyone can start sending their questions and we'll address them later at the end. Go ahead, Martina.
Yes, just let me know, please, if you can see my screen and if
yes,
everything is clear. Yes, okay, perfect.
Looks good.
Okay, so I am going to discuss about supply chain management and how the commercial sector can actually support the work of humanitarian organizations by establishing partnerships and create a supply chain that can be as efficient and sustainable as possible. Allow me to give you a brief overview on who we are and what NRS Relief does. We are a company that is manufacturing relief items and multipurpose shelters for mainly all the international organizations in the world. We also work with government entities that are engaged in disaster preparedness and emergency response. Our business headquarters is based in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, and we manufacture everything, and we ship and deliver our relief supplies from Lahore in the north of Pakistan. So as you can clearly understand, these two locations are very strategic because, as you might know already, Dubai is today the largest humanitarian hub in terms of stockpiling relief items, And of course, by manufacturing in Lahore, in Pakistan, we are able to cover every destination in Asia Pacific. Our vision is to provide essential solutions to all actors responding to humanitarian crisis, and in this way, we indirectly, but still meaningful, impact the lives of the vulnerable communities. And we do that through designing, developing, and delivering value-engineered solutions to the humanitarian sector. Our shared value approach reflects our commitment to partner collaboration and sustainable product development. NRS Relief adheres to the United Nations Global Compact principles as a bare minimum standard for the way we conduct business. We definitely align our business practices with Sustainable Development Goal number 8, because as a private company based in Dubai and a manufacturing partner based in Lahore, we provide employment to thousands. And beside all the HR policies, code of conduct, and all the international social accountability standards, we also undergo rigorous clients audits from international organizations that check on occupational health and safety, labor practices and grievance mechanism, as well as product safety and quality control standards. In the next few slides, I will also show you how we implement practically also SDGs 12 and 17, because I'm going to present you some of the innovations that we introduced in the industry through collaboration, direct collaboration with the humanitarian organizations. As a member of the relief sector, we believe that we have the responsibility to demonstrate the importance of sustainability efforts through social and environmental causes. As you can see here from the slide, these statistics are taken from the existing literature of the industry. And since 2020, COVID-19 captured the world's focus. But of course, other humanitarian crises also need attention. Rino was mentioning before, in Asia Pacific, specifically, we do have conflicts, forced displacements, forced migration, and climate change that is increasing the risk of natural disasters. So all of that needs global attention and, of course, a solution. In terms of NRS relief response in 2020, you can see the slide here. The numbers were still quite considerable. Indeed, through the efforts of our production, but also our logistic teams, we were able to supply more than 3 million products to approximately 40 humanitarian organizations. We do have the advantage of having a very capable logistic team in-house that is able to operate deliveries by land, by sea, and by air, wherever it's needed. When a disaster strikes, our job is to immediately activate the supply chain so that we can enable the humanitarian aid organization to efficiently receive and distribute vital aid to the affected communities. And usually we do that through our award-winning rapid response strategy that starts by mobilizing our stock from the emergency warehouses in Pakistan. We also tend to carry out field assessments as part of our emergency response strategy. Just to give you an example of emergency response approach, we can definitely discuss about the emergency response in Nepal in 2015, when Nepal faced a complex disaster from the devastating earthquake. We were able to organize a field assessment during that time to overcome logistic challenges. At that particular time, we did have some logistic challenges at the beginning because Nepal is a sandwich country between India and China. So finding a logistic solution through a transit port in India and then operating by land from Pakistan was not very easy at the beginning, but we could overcome this challenge by, of course, welcoming the feedback of the humanitarian organization that we also met during the field assessment. Another very important example of emergency response was in 2017 in Bangladesh to respond to the refugee crisis, to Rohingya crisis. So in October 2017, I personally conducted a field assessment in Cox's Bazar, and I had the chance to visit Kutupalong camp. And I was able to understand better how to optimize our intervention from the perspective of a manufacturer that is serving the humanitarian organizations. And in Bangladesh, in the field, I learned a lot about the challenges that the organization were encountering, and I could identify the best logistic solution to facilitate the supply chain. At that time, the airport was congested, and it was also quite challenging to find some solutions to clear the goods to facilitate the custom clearance procedures. A final very important example was the one in Indonesia, the emergency response to Sulawesi tsunami and then earthquake. In November 2018, we supported the operation of a humanitarian organization, a UN agency, that needed to meet the emergency shelter needs of displaced persons in the region. And the emergency shelter were supplied to Balikpapan airport via B767 charter flight. And the operation was successfully conducted by our strong logistic team in Dubai that was working together with an external freight forwarder that is regularly working with us. Of course, a very important role of our job is played by our manufacturing partner, HSNDS, in Lahore. As you can see from the slides, several management systems are in place to make sure that our social and environmental principles are monitored. And we do rely on ISO certification to manage our operating procedures at factory. What makes NRS Relief different, and why we do want to be considered as partners more than just suppliers? First of all, the legacy, because NRS Relief has been manufacturing relief items and multipurpose shelters only for the humanitarian sector for over 40 years. So this makes us definitely specialized in the solutions that we can offer to the organizations. And we consider ourselves like one-stop solution through the wide variety of our fit-for-purpose products that are also value for money, while at the same time they adhere to the high-quality standards. And I can definitely say that our main strength is our capacity to react quickly. Our emergency response team in Dubai is always ready to support the organization, and we can react quickly to any emergencies because we can do that through our technical expertise, but also ensuring emergency stock in Pakistan. Let's see together how we can build a stronger partnership, a stronger humanitarian architecture. The private sector and the commercial sector can play a very important role in the disaster relief community as a committed and long-term partner, but also as a catalyst for innovation. We definitely feel like being part of the humanitarian architecture because our job is to enable humanitarian organizations to respond quickly and also efficiently. And the commercial sector indeed plays a key role when a disaster strikes, because we work together with the main actors when the national or international response takes place. I would like to briefly describe how we particularly work in Asia Pacific. So besides being logistically located and in two strategic locations, so Dubai and Pakistan, where all the relief supplies and multi-purpose shelters are manufactured and delivered, we also work very closely with two main active local partners in Asia. One is based in Myanmar, Yangon, and the other one is based in Manila, Philippines. So these strategic partnerships have been existing for years, for more than 5 years so far. And our distributors, they have the ability to keep items in stock, relief items and multipurpose shelters in stock in their countries, so they can easily satisfy the local demand, and we can in this way maximize our logistic coverage. The same business strategy, the same supply chain management strategy is also followed in Latin America, because over there we do have another strategic partner, an official distributor that is based in Panama. Also in this case, the distributor is able to keep items in stock, and as you can see from the slide, through the strategic partnership, we were able to cover a wider area in Latin America, because our distributor was able to supply in Guatemala, or Cuba, Venezuela, Barbados, or Bahamas. So of course, shipping and delivering from Panama hub is much more convenient in terms of freight and transit time rather than shipping from Pakistan. In all the public events, like the one today, like in HELiX, we often discuss about innovation in the humanitarian sector, and how innovation can be and should be driven through public-private partnerships. So I'm going to give you just few details about our latest innovations that are a result of a direct collaboration with international organizations. Two very good examples of transformational innovations are the new generation of family tents. So this picture that you can see here on the left side, the geodesic tent, or as we call it in our brand name, the GeoHome family tent, is development in the shelter technology, and it is the outcome of years of research and development of ICRC, IFRC, and also UNHCR. Another very good example of transformational innovation and collaboration with another organization, in this case UNICEF, is the multi-purpose tent, the high-performance tent that we call Huggy Pro HPT. And then finally, we also know that most of the time innovation is incremental. So it's not really about brand new ideas, but it's about improving the existing products and using the existing products in a new innovative ways. This is the case for the Cradle Tent. Again, this design has been introduced by UNHRD Lab. Their idea was to create a different packaging of a family tent in order to reduce the waste. So they designed a packaging that can be easily reused as a cradle for babies. I will give you more details about this latest innovation later. To respond to the pandemic, to COVID-19, we were also able to customize some of the existing solutions, existing shelters in this case, and we designed some tailored solutions that were used in the multi-purpose tents and in the mobile storage units to facilitate the safe storage, triage, treatment of patients. Indeed, some of the COVID-19 solutions were used as quarantine tents or in some other cases as field hospitals for the COVID-19 outbreak. So the medical tent, you can see here in the drawings, in PE, in polyethylene, were combined with isolation cabins. So the high-performance tents were including frame tents with standard liner, ground sheet, shade nets, partitioning kits, but also isolation cabins in PE that could create an isolation space with approximately 2-meter distance. And the solution could also be supplied with lighting kits. Here you can see some example of the emergency response, COVID-19 response. Some of our structures, like the mobile storage units, were supplied to our clients, our partners, that distributed the structures to Ethiopia and Nigeria and used them during the response, during COVID-19 response. Some of our tents, like the PVC tents, our Huggy tents, were also used in the USA and in Italy to reinforce the existing health structures. The same case happened in Nassau, Bahamas, with the same structures, the Huggy tents in PVC, and in Manila, Philippines. In particular, this last distribution, the field hospitals in Manila, were operated through the local partnerships with the strategic distributor. Oops, was here. As you could see from the previous slides, our product development approach is definitely based on a collaboration model that involves international aid agencies, NGOs, governments, and sometimes also university with whom we establish partnerships. I will show you very briefly in the last slides how we could actually support for a more sustainable humanitarian supply chain, introducing solutions that could be definitely categorized as more sustainable. The first one that I briefly introduced earlier is the geodesic tent. The new generation of family tent is a self-standing structure. It is a lightweight shelter and which is safe from fire. And this shelter ensures more comfort and better temperature control. The challenge to introduce the innovation was to basically create a family tent with less environmental impact, with a longer lifespan, and a tent that could be reusable and made from recycled materials. The second innovation is, again, the high-performance tents. I'm sure all of you know that UNICEF uses this kind of multi-purpose tent for schools or child-friendly spaces, but also medical facilities, offices, warehouses, and accommodation tents. So the challenge was to create a structure that was better suitable for more severe weather conditions. At the same time, we needed to improve the internal comfort through an improved ventilation. We needed to provide protection against heat and cold. And at the same time, we needed to ensure that the structure was plenty of light and entering the interior, and still maintaining and ensuring personal privacy, especially for women and children. The structure is made of recyclable material, so the steel frame, as well as the out cover, the ground sheet, and the shade cover are made of heavy-duty polyethylene fabric, HDPE. And the structure is also made of easy repairable or replaceable components. One of the last innovations was the packaging designed by UNHRD Lab as I described before. So the challenge in this case was to reduce waste from packaging of the family tent to distributing during the humanitarian emergencies. So in line with the requirements and the ideas of the UNHRD Innovation Lab, and also the approach outlined in the Sustainable Development Goal 12, we could provide a product that comes with a packaging that is actually an added value for the end user. And this will allow humanitarian organizations, of course, to avoid the disposal of packaging waste. And another curiosity is that apart from the cradle for babies, all the items that are included in the cradles, so toys or educational items for children, are actually realized using waste material from our production, like, for example, virgin fibers from polyester of blankets that could actually be transformed in teddy bear comforters. The last initiative, not really innovation, was a CSR initiative that was introduced 3 years ago. So we could actually reuse the polycotton waste from refugee tent, from the family tent, and make tent totes, so bags for all our partners. As you can see from the slides, all the tent totes that we make are 100% from the polycotton or PVC waste that we can find in-house in our manufacturing site. So, of course, these are just a few ideas I wanted to share with you, but there's still a lot that we need to do in order to integrate and include the environmental, but also financially viable practices into the supply chain life cycle. And of course, I do welcome the opportunity to discuss more about that with you all. So we can now actually open the floor to questions, if any. I cannot see the chat box right now, so I'm not sure if some questions are already there. But we can definitely ask the audience to share their feedback and also to ask questions to both of us, to me and Rino, please.
Yeah, thanks, Martina. I think it's also useful for us to hear what others have made attempt in their organization as to how the business partner in general, or specifically with the commercial sector, has worked for them at the country level, right? Probably before we get there, and there is a comment already there in the chat box, but I'll get to that soon. Probably something of a follow-up from me, Martina, and even if you have some follow-up for my content earlier, my follow-up would be like, I think at the end of the day, there's still that ambition of, let's say, reducing carbon waste, right? And with international shipping, whether it's by sea, by air, we still kind of rely on that for now. But I mean, down the line with the product innovation and, what sort of possibilities of going into the, carbon reduction through, let's say, maximizing your local partners in the different countries.
Yes, Rino, thank you. Very good observation. Of course, logistics is a large part of the humanitarian operation. So reducing carbon emissions from our side, we do monitor our CO2 emissions. So this is already a great step. But if you talk about localization, we tend to collaborate with local partners, but manufacturing in locally is not an option for us. So that would be the ideal solution. Every country having the ability to manufacture international standard relief items locally and to reduce logistics. What we do, we tend to create a dialogue, and the collaboration is also about creating dialogues and talking to our clients. So One thing that I always do in my quotations, for example, I do suggest to take into consideration a full container load. So sometimes, of course, the requirements of the organization are given by the necessity, the needs of the end users, of your beneficiaries. But it would be very, very wise from all parties to take into consideration also full load containers, because sometimes we do ship containers partially loaded, and this is a big waste for sure. LCL is not really an option, because sometimes, of course, we cannot take control of the deliveries until the final destination. We cannot control really the transit time because we need to wait for the carrier to be full. And it's also sometimes more expensive than a full container load. So taking into consideration loadability is an important step from both parties, from the commercial sector, but from the humanitarian sector as well. And what we noticed, actually, one of the very big progress in production is less consumption of water, because now sustainability is measured, of course, through CO2 emission reduction, but also water consumption. This is in particular very important for manufacturers. So by introducing products with a different material, so by using PE rather than polycotton, we can save a lot of water in the production process. That's why the 3 tents that are just the easy example that you saw in the slides are considered more sustainable solutions. This is what, of course, the organizations state as well. It's not my statement. It's in the specification of the international organization. So if you are thinking about localization, what we do with our local partners is to deliver to them and then just satisfy the local demand. But manufacturing locally is not for sure an option for us. Okay, understood. All right. We do have already 2 questions and comment, and but Desfina, I think I would like to allow the mic to be open for the 2 participants who have provided their comments. Let me start with the first one from Vanda. Vanda put a comment around the basics rights in humanitarian logistics. Vanda, do you want to open your mic for like a few minutes just to share your perspective on basics rights in humanitarian logistics?
Okay, thank you, Rino. Hope that everybody can able to hear me. Yes. So, well, I basically learned this from you when when we are still colleagues a few years back. For me, when we are talking about humanitarian logistics, so I still continue remind about these 6 right commodities to the right place at the right time, in the right quality and right quantity at the right cost. And along the way, I mean, within Plan International, we try to kind of like really put this in practice in our logistic and supply chain management. And I really like what you mentioned, as well as Martina before, about the key point on preparedness, because I think when we talk about humanitarian logistic, preparedness is the key. When we are prepared in advance, through partnership with local agency or private sector, it's going to help us, speed up our response when in times of the emergency itself. So within Plan International, what we did for now in our preparedness, we are not as advanced as Save the Children or the other colleagues here, but what we are trying to do is really to improve our preparedness effort. So we have our disaster preparedness process in place in all of our 15 country of offices in Asia, we really making sure that we have a pre-agreement with the supplier, for instance. We have a very clear list of our, our items that usually we distribute during the emergency. We're making sure that the quality, the specification is in the right composition. We discuss with supplier in advance. We make an agreement with them. And lastly, we continue also to advance our partnership with local partners, with local NGO. And then throughout the preparedness process, we also engage with them to build their capacity, having the same common understanding how we did humanitarian logistics, how we dealing with our supply management. So again, just would like to iterate, and I totally agree with you guys that preparedness is key when we're talking about humanitarian logistics. Thank you. Over back to you, Rino.
Thanks, Vanda. And I think the 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 rights will not change. It's the same. I think the complexity of fulfilling those rights becomes more and more recently. Like I mentioned before, we need to consider the aspects of, sustainability, localization, DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. And there's so much more that becomes more of, how not only because it's a government requirement, for example, or donors requirement, all of that is going to be transferred to our business partner as well, such as the commercial sector, where the sector that Martina works in. And so it's important for us to, be vocal enough and clear enough. And so, our business partners will allow and support us in fulfilling those requirements. I hope you're getting the right kind of communications as well, Martina, from your partners on those issues.
Absolutely, Rino. Yes, we do. And I am also very glad to learn that the approach of your approach, the approach in general of Save the Children, is very collaborative and open. So during your presentation, you discussed about beneficial business partnership. So we are definitely on the same page. I have a curiosity. During your presentation, you described the supply chain in Asia, and you were talking about the dashboard. So where you keep track of all the items in stock. So I was curious to know if this is an initiative of Save the Children, and if the dashboard is, for example, shared or coordinated with other humanitarian organizations to avoid overlapping of distribution, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I think the idea came from frustration. I think all of us came up with the solution after frustration, right? And that's normally the case. And the frustration was that information was not readily available, information was not accurate, and information needed time to reach to me. And so, that frustration, turning a negative into a positive is by having this dashboard where, for all intents and purposes, it's an internal based kind of, intranet. It's on SharePoint, where every country in the region can see that dashboard and see the stock level of preposition or other stocks. And the idea is for that simple reason. We don't want to be spending too much time. Can you imagine when a country team is responding to a crisis and then you're on the phone calling them? They may not be a good use of their time taking the call from you, because they have other things that are more pressing to address, right? But if only those information was made readily available, somewhat updated to a point, let's say, the past, 2-3 weeks, even 1 month, I think it's a good enough quality of information. And so that will help you make decisions and analyze and so on and so forth. And so it came out of frustration, actually, and it led to a solution. It's a dashboard, it's internal. Externally, outside of Save the Children, we share information at the national and global level, whether it's with the Global Logistics Cluster or any other partners that we work together when responding to a certain emergency response. And I think that will be depending on needs basis. But as far as a consistent internal kind of information management platform, that's the way we operate that. So, it's basically turning a negative into a positive.
Positive, of course.
Yeah, did I miss anything from your question? Because I think there was another. Okay, I think we can hear one more question from our participants today, Martina. But Desvina, can we hear from Charbel Matara, please? Charbel is asking about suppliers delivering DDP to countries, but there are regulations in place that that limits that, if I'm not mistaken. Hi, Charbel. Are you able to speak, Charbel?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Charbel, where are you based? And can you let us know the organization that you're working with right now?
Yeah, actually, I'm Martina's colleague.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're
this was not prepared.
No, it's not.
It was not prepared.
So basically, Rino, I have a question for Save the Children as a supply chain expert. In some countries where you have regulation that doesn't allow commercial companies to pay duties on behalf of NGOs. So is there any discussion on a global scale, or are you facing this specifically in Asia? Because in some countries we are having this issue. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Charbel, and I think a lot of us are going through this situation with our different business partners. First and foremost is that our countries in the team, and I'm not just going to talk about Save the Children. I think in general, our teams in the country really needs to understand what are the do's and don'ts, what is possible, what is not possible, and that's part of our effort to enable our business partner perform efficiently and with the biggest impact for us. And so it is as well as a joint interest so that we know what the regulation landscape is in a country. So, if we're clear on that, and assuming that we know for sure that country A does not allow an organization to instruct to do a DDP duty. For those who are not, DDP Incoterm savvy, DDP means that you're paying duty in the country by the freight forwarder or by the company that you have authorized to make the delivery to the country, right? So you're not just applying for, tax exemption or some sort of humanitarian kind of allowance of entering the country. So you're paying tax basically. So that's the first point for me, is to understand whether that's what's the regulation landscape of the country, and obviously depending on what the item is. Sometimes the items are very specific and very 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 rare to source. It's not available in the country. So I think this is what preparedness is all about. What you need will not be available in the country. And if you know that your government, where the country is, does not allow DDP, or does not even allow or give tax exemption for humanitarian aid, I think it's important to learn all of this, and then you strategize on whether, one, you may need to have a different commodity of items so that you don't delay responding to the crisis or the humanitarian situation. And number two is that, by all means, make your approach. Again, widening your scope of business partnering. The government is also part of your business partner circle. It's never a wrong thing to try and negotiate, right? And you don't know until you try. That's my perspective. And so at the end of the day, if it's going to be no, your organization cannot bring in something on DDP. No, we will not raise and allow for tax exemption. No this, no that, no that. Then at the end of the day, what does your preparedness tell you if your option A, B, and C does not work? Do you have option E until Z, or option A1, B1, and so on and so forth? So it's not a straightforward answer, I know, Charbel, but I think the idea is that we need to always consider these changes, right? And that's why when I mentioned in my slide about updating your preparedness is government regulations change. That if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs changes, or the Director General of Revenue Services change, the cabinet change, the president change, prime minister change, it's all going to come with a set of changes in regulations. And so it's important, and it's in the interest of the organization and their business partner to understand these changes so that you don't caught up in a deadlock and not able to respond to the crisis. To me, that's a living thing. It's more of a 24/7, 365 days a year kind of thinking concept. So I hope that's good enough for you, Sure.
Actually, thanks for the answer. But what I propose also, if in some countries where some goods are not available locally, so you need to get it from international trusted suppliers where you're looking for specific quality and the performance in the field. So
I agree.
So some places we are not allowed to pay duty. So, and it's a bit responsibility for us to consign a cargo on a third party, whereas the NGO, they don't listen to you. They just say, we want our goods delivered. So having a common platform or a sort of understanding where you guys can tell us, you can put this consignment under this entity that you have already verified, that would facilitate it a lot in many countries. I always raise it.
Charbel, you remind me of something. You know, I think a few years ago, I was working with an organization that tried to bring in water testing kits. It's not available in the country. This was in Africa. So it had to be imported. And, you know, there was no, like you said, there's no DDP, there's no tax exemption or waivers. You know what we offered? We can make the government, one of the government offices as a consignee.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Right? So,
exactly.
You know, we make the purchase and everything else. For the practicality of importation, we can make the government organization or office as a consignee, as a recipient. And so they will deal through their own system in getting it cleared. And we just have to monitor and check with them and, you know, check both ways with the shipper, with the partner. And that's, again, that's something of a business partnering that can be very practical.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Rino.
Thanks, Charbel. All right. We still have a lot of time. We don't have anything anymore yet, but that's Rina, yeah?
Thank you, Jessica, Raymond,
not yet at the moment.
Okay, cool.
I think we can let the audience to speak and allow them to.
We can definitely welcome other questions, if any.
Yeah. Okay.
Or comments.
Or share, right? So
yes,
again,
in the chat box.
Yeah. I think as I said before, I'm not an expert, I'm a practitioner, and it's always good to get a perspective of other practitioners. And you know, business partnering, I think many of you have done it or is doing it already. We're probably not using the same terminology, but I think the way we want to achieve and the way we want to work through the relationship is essentially the same thing. When we were preparing this session, Martina and I had a few conversations, and I told her, you know, it's very kind of unfortunate that, you know, in my experience with the commercial sector, we only engage because we want to send a purchase order, you know, and I think we need to be more than that in terms of harnessing strength from the commercial sector. So Martina, in terms of, you know, what's your experience when you know, your partners from, you know, different organizations come to you and seeking for advice or looking at, you know, potential possibilities? You know, sometimes when we plan, we need a resource, right? When we plan, we need a perspective, you know, what do you know about, you know, the possibility of doing that, or some kind of a platform of information that we can access to help us better plan and to help us prepare better for our future responses?
To have a better collaboration, you mean? Well, I can definitely say that platforms, public platforms like the one we are joining today are extremely useful, because they can, I mean, through this platform, we have the ability and the opportunity to meet and to discuss about the same topic together. So definitely, I do welcome all these public events. And then collaboration is made through daily or weekly communication. Me, Charbel, we work together. We have been working together for more than 5 years now, and we do this constantly. So I can say that actually the feedback is always very positive. Usually organizations, humanitarian officers, they do welcome the discussions with us, because they don't see us just as salespeople, right? We are here in this sector. We are, of course, business professionals, but we are in this sector because we are also very interested in what you do. So we want to participate. We want to be active and collaborative partners. So having this kind of platform is definitely useful. Having regular conversations is definitely a must. So you will see me calling you more often now, for sure, to have a discussion together. And then, as you were saying before with Charbel, proactivity from individuals is the key in every aspect and for every job. So I can also see that you are very interested and your approach is very open. Some other partners can be more reluctant or skeptical, so they are not so open like you. So it's all about individual initiative at the end. But I would love to schedule a regular public event like this one, not just every year, but even more than once per year, to share together opinions and to discuss about topics. HELiX Initiative was absolutely a great idea. It's not just a platform for humanitarians, but it's a platform for humanitarians and for partners working in the same sector. So yeah, that means a lot, of course. So I would definitely welcome the opportunity to have more of these events together. And if you allow me, I also have a curiosity, a question to ask. It's a question that I can ask you, but also the other
everyone else.
Everyone else. I would like to know more what you think about strategic partnership and sustainable partnership. So what makes a partner a perfect partner in supply chain management in European Union? So what would you like to see improved in the commercial sector to establish a successful and sustainable partnership? Is there any advice, any tip that you can share with us? You or also the participants, of course.
Yeah, I really want to hear more from our participants today. I'm sure they have a lot of wealth of insights. I will also contribute mine at the end. Is everyone okay if if we open the mic now and try to give insight to Martina's question about what is the how can we improve the expectation, more or less in that nature, right? What would be a sustainable partnership with the commercial sector? I see some names here, but Deswina, do we have the mics open? So can I hear from Nathan Klenner, please? If it's okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Rino. It's been a while.
Good afternoon, Mas Nathan. It's been a while. Yeah, I think in full disclosure, I know Nathan. I've worked with Nathan in the past, and is a very experienced field and sort of management level operational context. Do let us know who you're with today, Nathan, and perhaps you can give your insight on what sustainable partnership, business partnership looks like for the commercial sector in your view.
Yeah, sure. So I'm with Bolloré Logistics, a French company, and I'm the head of development aid and relief for the Asia Pacific region. And so what does sustainable partnership look to us? I guess from our perspective, we've got a number of regulatory compliance issues that we need to have mind of, and also some governance issues at the board level. But mostly what those issues are saying is that we need to partner in this space with NGOs, with UN organizations, so that we can better understand and support your organizations. We're getting pressure is the wrong word. We are asked to collaborate more with our commercial customers because they have, our clients are saying they want ethical and responsible business value chain from us, and they want sustainable solutions. So within my sector and my region, we are just touching on this subject, and I'm about to have a conversation with our sustainability officer in Singapore, where we'll talk about packaging, possible package solutions for NFIs because of the waste that's produced and how it can be more used in different ways, boxes, how they can be used in different ways, and how we can take the rubbish out of the environment. So I'll have those kinds of conversations. There's other innovative ones, particularly in and around technology that we've all been talking about. But there is one that's very much on the radar of the large logistics company, and it's a $4.4 to $5 trillion motivation to improve the effectiveness of supply chain. And this $4 to $5 trillion comes from is the amount of money that at any one time is in escrow, is being held globally in escrow. So what they're thinking and what they're working towards is using smart contracts across the blockchain to break down that escrow holding and release that funding back into the business. Once they get that, and they will, because it's $4 to $5 trillion, they just won't stop until it's achieved. And once they get those efficiencies, then those efficiencies will flow down and through the aid and relief sector. And so the aid and relief sector should position themselves to be able to move with those advances as well. But we can't do that without collaboration, without co-creating solutions in between them. So what I'm saying is, for sustainable solutions, yes, we have our ideas, you also have your ideas, but we really need to get together and chat more.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree with Nathan. There should be more space for sustainability. And I'm sorry, the voice was breaking up, so I didn't really understand the organization name. But yes, Nathan.
Polari Logistics.
Ah, yes, okay. We know you very well because we had the pleasure to work with you as well. So for sure, freight forwarding companies are an essential partners for us, but especially for humanitarian organizations. So it's good to know that we are all aligned, and we all want to support you in the best and most advanced way possible. And talking about blockchain, I know that this technology has been introduced by many organizations, especially in the supply chain. Does Save the Children have experience about blockchain technology in supply chain yet?
We're just scratching the surface, to be honest, and it's still new in a bigger financial sense for the organization, and so I don't think we can offer much on this opportunity in terms of perspective on that one. No, but I think that's kind of where everyone is heading, right? As well. Especially on the aid sector. I think we have time for just a quick one more perspective to your question, Martina, and I think it was really interesting about what the sustainable partnership, business partnership looks like for the commercial sector. Can I invite Aureli, please, if it's not troubling, Aureli?
Good afternoon, good morning.
Good morning. How's the UK weather?
Yes, the weather is a bit horrendous at the moment.
Okay. Just a brief perspective, please, Aureli. What you reckon is what's the vision of a partnership with the commercial sector from our sector?
So that's something that we want to, overall in NGOs, we would like to collaborate, because private sector has the means in terms of resources that we lack sometimes, and especially financial resources as well. We have some intelligence in the field that they lack as well. So there is, I think, a good cooperation that is possible, but there is some cultural, let's say, in terms of sector, cultural aspect that we don't want to collaborate with very much with the private sector. So there are things that we need to change, and that we should be investigating in, for example, as well in localization for the procurement. So we have also good suppliers at a local level, which are from the private sector and willing to collaborate. So we can also work in these areas.
Thank you, Aureli, for your feedback. Thank you very much. Can I just ask you, if I may, ask you what you exactly mean about cultural challenges? I can understand that some organizations are more open towards collaborations. Some others actually they prefer to avoid collaboration with the commercial sector. But I think again, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection, and the voice was a bit breaking up. But I think I understood that the collaboration is not really welcomed because of cultural challenges. So I guess you refer to the
more historical, cultural, about the ability for a private partner, for example, to deliver to the last mile, or understanding the context in which we evolve. So that's more about these aspects, where I guess historically there has been a bit of differences in between NGO sector and private sector. So this is what we need to tackle in really supporting each other, in helping the private sector to understand our context and challenges. So then they can also support us in delivering wherever it is necessary and what we need.
That I agree. Do you think there's a space for improvement in terms of discussion with the commercial sector? I
do believe so, yes. If we have the right platforms to actually share in between NGOs and private sector and bring that knowledge, understanding, yes, we can create that collaboration, understanding, and change the way we are working, yes.
Okay, thank you, Aureli. So if I understood correctly, you would like to see the commercial sector more involved in terms of understanding better the sector where you operate in order to support you in a better way.
Right.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thanks, Aureli. We forgot to acknowledge Aureli. She's with Plan International at the headquarters, and she's taking time out in her morning to join us today. Thanks again, Aureli. Okay, so Martina, let me add my perspective to your points, and then we can start wrapping up as the time is winding down, unfortunately. So yes, for me, it's about learning more about how we do information management, analysis, and data management. I think that's more on sort of like strengthening our capability in reading and also having a meaningful effort of collecting data, because I think in this sector we tend to just collect data for the sake of collecting data, not necessarily using the data to more sort of like segmented and very purposeful objective. It's improving, but I think in terms of the maturity, we can learn a lot from the commercial sector in terms of negotiations, and also understanding how things can be more practical in making decisions, and also in strategizing and planning. So that's my perspective on how the partnership with the commercial sector can be more sustainable.
Thank you, Rino. Interesting point of view.
Turning a negative into a positive, still in the same mindset. Okay. I've been flagged by Desrina. So I think, don't forget everyone, we do have a feedback form to share with you, and do please let us know how you feel about the session. We want to improve, and we want to thank you as well for your time today. I personally want to thank Martina for such a special occasion and sharing the platform with you and the session, Martina. I also want to thank HELiX Center for the opportunity as well, for allowing us to share our perspective. So Martina, over to you, and then over to Destrina. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rino. Same for me. A really big thank you to you, first of all. It was an honor and a pleasure for me to co-host with you, co-present with you. And you will definitely hear from me more often. That's a promise. And I also would like to thank HELiX Center and Destrina in particular for her professionalism and for her guidelines. We have been in touch for the whole week, and really your guidelines were extremely useful. Thank you very much for organizing the event and giving us the opportunity to share our feedback with all of you.
All right. But Destrina, thanks, Martina. Over to you, but Destrina.
Thank you, our pleasure. Thank you very much for the speakers, Mas Rino, Miss Martina, as well as all participants who are very much actively participated and then share their experiences, not only throwing questions. So I would like to kindly ask all participants to take a quick photo, a virtual photo, by turning on your video. This is optional, of course, but I would encourage everyone to do so. I'll give 30 seconds.
Oh, everyone looks so great. I wonder why we only see it now.
So we won't distract from the key speakers, of course. It has been very interesting discussion I've been following, and then learning a lot about supply chain logistics, also some of the changes and shift made throughout this pandemic, the COVID-19 that we all experience. All right, I think I'm gonna take the screenshot now. Counting 3, 2, 1, everyone smile. Another 1, 3, 2, 1. And if you don't mind, with one response, one ASEAN, one response. Sorry for that. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you all. Thank you very much. See you around, and have a great rest of the day.
Stay well.
Take
and
care.
Don't forget
Stay
to
well.
smile.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Grazie, Martina.
Grazie a te. Ciao.